Hey there my lovelies, and welcome to my BookTube channel, The Sassy Library Fox. My name is V, and today we're going to talk about a couple of rainbow book recommendations. Don't worry, I got you covered, from werewolves to vampires and ghosts, zombies, whatever. I got very interesting books for you in this video, 5 to be exact. And some of them tick off a lot of prompts, others not that many, but yeah, it's up to you if you want to read those books or not. I thought they are definitely worth our attention because they are very unique. Every single one of them is unique in its own way. And I had a lot of fun digging deeper into those 5 books. So yeah, I got my coffee at the ready, I got my cheat sheets, and we're going to do this. I'm so excited for Rainboween. I already made my to-be read. I got a lot of arcs that will tick off some of the prompts, I think. So let's see if this year will be the first year I finally managed to tick off all the prompts on my bingo board. Might be, might not be, we will see. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip because I'm once again highly allergic. Don't mind my fingers and my wrist. I'm not exactly the most lucky person at the moment when it comes to my hands, so just ignore it. Anyway, enough of that. The first book I want to talk about, and this one landed on my radar because it's very interesting. It's named Silver Moon by Catherine Lundoff. And the prompts you would tick off by reading that one would be, it's an FF, fantasy, werewolves, paranormal and shapeshifter story. And what makes this story really interesting is the fact that Becca the MC isn't just a middle-aged woman, but she is recently divorced and also came out of the closet, so she's queer as well. And to add insult to injury, she is in her menopause. And the really cool thing about this book is that apparently in her town, women who are in their menopause literally go kind of feral and turn into werewolves. I love that. Menopausal werewolves. I mean, honestly, this idea is great. Just amazing. They totally had me at menopausal werewolves. So this is a very unusual take on a werewolf story. First of all, it's actually an FF werewolf story. So we have, I can only assume, but I guess the protagonist, Becker, is definitely queer. Since she got divorced from her husband, or ex-husband now, I can only assume that she is probably a lesbian, but I don't know. I don't wanna assume anything, so we will just say she's queer. And she discovers that she turns into a werewolf at night due to her menopause, which is really interesting. But also discovers that there are more women like her in her town, an entire pack that is protecting their little small town. But unfortunately, there are also werewolf hunters in her town now, and they have it out for her. So yeah, this is really, it sounds so interesting, and the take of finally female werewolves. I can't remember ever finding a book with a female werewolf before. All the queer werewolf books have MM couples, at least the ones I discovered. So I'm over the moon I found this one and was able to introduce it to you. It has quite good ratings on Goodreads, so I hope it will be a great story. I will definitely pick it up. Not in October, but maybe during the year, because as you all know, I read queer all year. And this story just sounds very interesting and so intriguing. I honestly want to find out more about Becca and her werewolf pack of menopausal werewolves. That's just such an interesting take on a story and on the old story of werewolves. Anyway, before I continue to babble, I'm gonna take a sip here and I'll talk about the second book I chose as a recommendation. I gotta be honest here, I haven't read any of the books I used for this recommendation video. I'm just very intrigued by all of them. They have really high ratings. I think they are all above 4 stars on Goodreads. So I can only assume that they are good, but they definitely sound good. And I decided I wanted to introduce them to you. So here goes nothing. The next book that landed on my recommendation list is St. Juniper's Folly by Alex Crespo. And this book ticks off ghosts, horror, young adult, fantasy, paranormal, witches, mystery and thriller, which is a lot of prompts. I'm gonna blend them in here, but I think it might be 7 at least. And as for what it is about, it's basically about 3 kids, and they are named Jamie, Theo and Taylor, and their paths cross. After Theo finds Jamie in an old haunted house, the problem is, if I gathered it correctly, Jamie is stuck in that haunted house. He dreaded the return to his little small town, but returned anyway, and then wandered off into the woods and never returned. So Theo finds him in that old haunted house, and Jamie can't get out of it. So Theo decides to go to the town's witch, and this is where Taylor comes into play, because she is that mentioned witch, and he asks her to help him free Jamie. But yeah, this sounds really interesting. I honestly don't have any idea which kind of queer representation is in here. It just said queer and LGBTQIA+. So yeah, I think we gotta discover that once we read the book. But a haunted house with ghosts that's set on keeping its inhabitants inside sounds really interesting. Also, it's young adult, one of my favorite genres. So I've been intrigued by this one, and it ticks off really a lot of prompts. If any of you have read this one already, please let me know if it was really as good as I hope it will be. Okay, the third book. Another sip. That made it on my list is The Last Hope in Hopetown by Maria Trudeau. Trudeau? Yeah. I think that's a French name, and you don't speak the endings in the French language. So I think it's Maria Trudeau. Okay. Or if we want to really pronunciate it in the French spelling, I would have to say Maria Trudeau. Yeah, I think it's Trudeau. Anyway, enough of my horrible French. This one is special because it's actually a middle grade book. I don't know about you, but every year when I'm hosting Rainboween, I have troubles to find middle grade books. Maybe because people don't write middle grade books in the queer horror genre that much. I honestly don't know. But yeah, this one is middle grade, and it ticks off fantasy, vampires, paranormal and mystery as well. Because quite honestly, it wasn't mentioned that it is a mystery, but from what I gathered from the blurb, I would say it's definitely a mystery. Because Sophie lives in her hometown, and her hometown, Hopetown, is special because there are humans and vampires living together. Vampires hold to all the rules so that their human neighbors feel safe and aren't worried they might bite them and go feral. Let's put it that way. So Sophie has two moms and they are both vampires and they adopted her, and she's so happy to have a family and to be with them. But then one day suddenly one of her moms goes feral and attacks someone, and because of that Sophie decides to find out what causes the attacks and if there is a cure for vampires, because apparently those cases are getting more and more in Hopetown. And yeah, she wants to solve that mystery with her bestie, and I'm very curious what she'll find out. So this one sounds great as well. It is a vampire book, always good. And yeah, I'm very curious what's behind the vampires going feral, even though they were really nice citizens before and lived with the humans. The fourth book I chose is something very unusual for Rainboween, because it's Peter Darling by Austin Chant. And Peter Darling is obviously a Peter Pan retelling, but a very dark one. At least I could gather that from the blurb when I read it, and it ticks off fantasy retelling, young adult, merfolk and magic, because quite honestly magic and merfolk always come with Peter Pan stories, so I doubt it will be any different in here. At least I hope that we will get some merfolk and magic in this book. What makes this book so special isn't just the fact that it's a retelling. Retellings are always something I have a very hard time to find for Rainboween, because they don't tend to be spooky. Retellings are usually mostly set in mythology settings, to be honest. So it's not that easy to find something creepy or spooky. But since I read that this is a very dark retelling and an adult one, I was all down for putting this on my Rainboween list. Also, it ticks off some of the prompts, so even if it's not that scary or spooky, it still will help you to finish that bingo board. And that's the important thing here. We all want to have fun and to finish the bingo board. And this story sounds really so good because Peter Pan is trans in this one. Yes, we have a trans MC and it's Peter Pan, who returns from the real world after 10 years. So Peter grew up and became an adult, and he returns to Neverland and finds out that no one really missed him and that the Lost Boys moved on without him. The only person who seems to be glad that he is back is Captain James Hook, which is, yeah, a really interesting detail because he finally has his rival back. And the really fun thing about this one is that Peter and Hook are once again at war, but there also are some sort of weird feelings involved that develop between those two, because of all of the boys in Neverland, Captain James Hook actually understands Peter's thoughts and feelings the most. So I heard that this one is great. A lot of people gave this raging reviews, and I'm so curious about this take on Peter Pan, especially with a trans Peter. That's amazing. I love the idea. So I'm definitely going to read that one in the next year, I hope, because it sounds way too good to pass on it. and quite honestly, a relationship between Peter and Hook, very intriguing, honestly, so intriguing. Okay, last book, last tip, before I'm ending this video. And of course, the last recommendation I have to give you is a zombie one, because I only added zombies into the bingo board grid last year. And so I gotta feed you, pun totally not intended in this case. I gotta feed you a couple of zombie stories, right? Right. And probably they aren't that at the front of your mind. There aren't that many zombie stories out there that are queer, but every year I find one for you. So this one is no different. And it is Monsters Within Men by T.J. Rose. And as for what prompts it ticks off, it's an fantasy zombies paranormal story. And yeah, it's a little bit for the adult audience, so 18 plus I would say. And this one went on my radar because it's very interesting. It has an interesting setting and premise, because we have London after the zombie apocalypse took place. And there are a couple of survivors that kind of barricaded themselves in the city and are trying to live a quite normal life there, aside of the zombies outside. And Noah is the leader of Squad E, and his job is to keep the people in the city safe from the zombies outside. A job he does very well, but a lot of troubles are on his plate and entering through the doorstep. So yeah, Noah is, well, let's say the problems are growing over his head. But then he gets a new recruit, and this recruit is Zeke. And Zeke was a former assistant in a laboratory, and he only joined Noah's squad because after his boss was imprisoned for doing something really bad, which he doesn't know what it was, his job as an assistant at the laboratory ended, and now he was looking for a new job, and the only opportunity that arose was to join Noah's squad. So he and Noah aren't exactly on friendly terms, but they get closer throughout the course of the book, especially once their lives are threatened and Noah is just trying to keep his squad safe as the zombies invade the last remains of the civilized city of London. So yeah, they are starting to develop feelings. It's an enemies to lovers story, I think. It sounds very intriguing. I love zombie stories. If they are about London, a post-apocalyptic London zombie world, where the protagonists have to fight for their lives, it makes everything even more interesting, I think. Okay, so those were the 5 books I wanted to bring to your attention because they all sound great. They all have a very unique take on queer horror stories, so I thought I needed to present them to you. And yeah, I hope 1 or 2 of them might be able to help you fill out the bingo board. And if you got any recommendations that would be interesting for Rainboween, don't hesitate to drop them down below. I'll also make sure to put the links to my other free recommendation videos I did over the last years down in the description box below, so that you can click on them and find new books that might tick off the prompts you need. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying Rainboween and participating in this fun readathon. And well, I guess we were already at the ending of my video, and there's nothing left to say except of take care, stay healthy and safe, and see you around the next time. Bye!